On this week's edition of Chopping It Up with Buck, we're leaving the gridiron and going to the hardwood. We've got my man George Lynch, one of the all-time legends at the University of North Carolina, 12-year player in the league, played in some really fascinating places. The Lakers, played with AI in Philly. So we just got some real good conversation with George and his life and all the things that he's been able to do over the course of his career. George, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So first off, we were talking a little bit. You grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, but I thought it was a real interesting story that you ended up going, you transferred like your junior year. You left, and so you kind of left home early. And when most guys are getting ready for their senior year, you're going off and you're going to play basketball. Tell us a little bit about that story and how that helped you when you got to North Carolina be a little bit more mature.
Well, Stu Vetter was the high school coach at Flint Hill Prep in Northern Virginia. And he was the originator of kids going away to pursue basketball. I was at a large public school in my hometown, Roanoke, Virginia, and I wanted to focus a little bit more on my academics. When I was at Patrick Henry my junior year, we won the state championship. A lot of the guys that I was playing with in Roanoke, Virginia were a year ahead of me and went on to college. And I thought it was a great time for me to go. I left right after the state championship, probably right around second semester of high school, and went up to Northern Virginia and finished my junior year playing at Flint Hill Prep. Stu Vetter has some great players there. Dennis Scott came through there.
Okay.
Ronnie Thompson, a lot of good players that came out of that program. Randolph Childress was a teammate of mine. And we were, it was Oak Hill Academy and Flint Hill Prep, the two schools, private schools that's kind of competing for that national ranking. And, there was, a couple schools, Elizabeth City, Bobby Hurley school up there in New Jersey was also, and now there's prep schools everywhere. So going away, it prepared me for my freshman year at North Carolina. We kind of ran the same system, that Dean Smith ran at North Carolina. So it was an easy transition for me, making that adjustment from high school to college.
Even if I take you even further back, it's interesting when you read about yourself, you were born premature. There was some thought, you were really sick as a young child, but your mantra had always been hard work. I think that was the one thing that everything I read about you and everything that I can remember watching you, even defensive guy, all the dirty work, but you were a scorer at North Carolina. When you got to the league, that changed. Who were the biggest influences on you growing up? Your mom and dad, I know, they separated, but your stepdad and your dad played a role. Coach, who was the big influence on you growing up to kind of give you that hard work that you're known for?
It's funny. My stepfather kind of introduced me to basketball. I was probably a better football player coming out of Virginia than I was basketball wise. But, I came home one day, I probably was 13, 14 years old, back in the day when we came up, we played in the parks with older guys.
Yeah, everything.
These kids play AAU now. Everything's structured. Everything is organized. Team is already handpicked. But so I went to the neighborhood to play one time. I was by myself. And I came home and I was complaining that the big kids wouldn't pass me the ball. Mm. And so my stepdad pulled me to the side. He asked me several questions. He was like, "Can you play defense?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can you dribble?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can you rebound?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can you score?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, play defense, get the rebound, dribble up the court, and shoot it yourself." And it kind of set in, after a while, because I was like, okay, if I'm playing with the bigger guys, they ain't gonna pass it to me, so I'm gonna do it myself. And that carried over into high school. It carried over into college. When I got to North Carolina, Dean Smith said I could be the best player on the floor without scoring the basketball. And when I got to Carolina, it was a McDonald's All-American at every seat. And
Yeah.
and for me to get playing time on the floor, I had to keep that in mind that I could be the best player on the floor without scoring.
Yeah. I think you bring up a great point, George. I love basketball and baseball first before I fell in love with football. So I can remember one of my high school coaches early on, my freshman, sophomore year, said, hey, these old cats ain't going to pass you the ball unless you use your body, you rebound, and you do the dirty work. And then I became a scorer in basketball, but football was my love. I think the thing when you talk about North Carolina, when you got there, that hard work didn't change. What was it about Dean Smith? Because I think everybody knows about the Carolina way. They talk about it like they know it. You lived it. You were in the thick of it. What is it about the Carolina way when you look up and see all the banners that are there, the guys that come before you? What was it about that was so special?
Well, when I was a top 25 recruit, McDonald's All-American, 1 or 2 at my position. And coming out, Dean was the only one that didn't promise me anything. He said, listen, only thing I'm going to promise you is a fair shot at playing time. And I loved it because all the other schools that recruited me, they were also recruiting other, top players. And I was like, they were promising me the world. Dean was the only one that didn't promise me anything. And I was like, look, I know if I go in there and work, I'm going to deserve playing time. And this coach ain't going to promise the next recruit and recruit over me. That was one of the things I respected about Coach Smith because, coming from my stepfather, my high school coach, Stu Vetter, even my high school coach in Roanoke, I was always surrounded by great players. I just had to earn my playing time and earn my piece of the pot. And going to North Carolina, it was the same way.
Yeah. I think you mentioned, too, Duke was the team when you first got to school that was really doing well. I think did you guys lose to Duke those first 2 years for the ACC championship?
My first year, we beat them. My second and third year, my sophomore and junior year, they won back-to-back titles. Yeah. I think the year we had Rick Fox, probably my sophomore year, we beat them, but we lost to we lost to Kansas in the Final Four. We would have played Duke again, but Duke had just won 2 back-to-back titles going into my senior year, and you know how it is. It's, those schools are less than 10 miles apart, and we had to live with that for 2 summers. So
what was that? I know before the senior year, you had talked about we're going to train differently, we're going to do different things, we're going to be prepared. So when we get to that chance, we're going to beat Duke for the ACC championship. But you started talking like we're going to win this national championship, and here's how we have to do it. Tell us how that came about and what started that in you.
Well, of course, you go to Carolina because it's in the ACC. You got cross-time rivalry, Duke, NC State, Virginia, tough conference. And, my promise when I went to North Carolina was to graduate and win a national championship. We got to the Final Four my sophomore year. Unfortunately, we lost to Kansas. Kansas was a great team. Roy Williams, did a great job coaching them. But with the competition and Duke being down the road, I had to make sure I came out of there with a national championship. And going into my senior year, I was a captain. I pulled the guys to the side. I said, look, we're going to have curfew, 2 nights for the game. Night before the game, there's going to be a strictly curfew. We're going to be in by 10. We're going to be committed, stay out of the bars. And the guys bought in. And Coach Smith has been close several times. He had been to Final Fours. He had only won 1 national championship. And we had a great group of guys. We had been through the wars and battles. We lost 4 games that year to Duke, Florida State, Wake Forest, and Michigan. And we were destined that year. We were, of course you got to be healthy and be playing well, but we were a close-knit, and we had been through it for 4 years, and it was just our time.
I know winning the national championship is a big deal. We have to talk about that, especially Chris Webber, because I heard a story that when you guys played them in Hawaii, they almost made the same mistake that they did in the national championship game. So my question has always been, why did you go and guard him and trap him again? What made you know, okay, this is going to happen? And how did it work out so perfectly for you guys?
It was interesting. You know, if you look back through that season, we played Michigan. I think it was Christmas, right before the Christmas or Thanksgiving holiday in Hawaii. And, you know, Coach Smith, I mean, he was a stickler to details and preparation. We spent more time going over late game situations. How would we get back in the game? And Coach Smith trusted me as a senior. He allowed me to go trap the ball whenever I thought it was necessary or felt that I could make a decent trap. Like I said, I was a pretty good football player. I think I could have played free safety. but you know, when we played them in Hawaii that year, Chris Webber always wanted to bring the ball up the floor, and he was not my assignment. I was supposed to guard Juwan Howard the entire game, but every once in a while, Jalen Rhodes, their primary ball handler, would take the ball out. And this was back in, November, December. And I told Derek Phelps, I said, look, D, anytime Jalen take it out, you and I just going to run a two-man press. We had Eric Montross back protecting the rim. So I told Montross, I said, look, if Jalen takes it out, you just run back to the rim. I'll get back to Juwan before they get the ball half court. And, you know, they took it out. They were burning timeouts just because they weren't prepared for a press offense. Yeah. You know, several months later, same thing happened in the championship game. Derek and I just run a two-man press. You know, he travels, he runs it up the sideline, and we prepare in practice. Anytime we use the sideline as an extra defender. Yeah. You know, sideline, half-court line once you come across. If you close to that line, best believe Carolina is going to trap you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it worked to our favor that year.
Yeah. Well, George, we're going to take a quick break. We're chopping it up with Buck. We'll be right back in a minute.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love. Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available. Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.
All right, we're back we're chopping it up with Buck with George Lynch, talking about those old UNC days. And you talked about winning the national championship, which I think was outstanding. And, you know, for Dean, I know it was special for you. He always, it seems like everything I've read about him and your relationship was pretty close. He looked at you as a guy that he could always go to, and that hard work keeps seeming to come up, and got emotional and talking about you at different events. But what was the coolest thing about winning the championship? Winning the game, presenting the jersey to Bill Clinton, the things that Dean Smith, you know, all just give us an idea of what that felt like that year.
Well, it was a memorable season. You know, like I said, Duke had just came off of winning back-to-back titles. You know, we were the stepchild at that time. Coach K and the team, his early '90 teams were reigning in North Carolina. You know, the whole state of North Carolina want you to win and come out victorious. So there's a lot of pressure on a student athlete in Chapel Hill if you play men's basketball. But just the way everything, you know, you had Charlie Ward, the great Florida State team, being able to overcome that. You know, Wake Forest had Rodney Rogers and Randolph Childress. That was a battle in the ACC. And then, of course, going into Cameron and trying to win, them coming back to us, that rivalry has always been legendary. But the way the season fell into place, there was talk about Coach Smith couldn't win the big one. Mm-hmm. And it was, he never talked about winning. He always wanted to make sure that we were growing as men. Mm-hmm. He always tried to deflect the pressure off his teams because he knew the media attention that he brought to himself, and the pressure of wearing the brand North Carolina was a lot of pressure in itself. And he did his best to deflect that from us as players. But, the Florida State game, the things that he would say to us, there's 1 billion people in China that's not even watching this game, so don't put pressure on yourself. We came back from 20-something down in that game in the second half. Going into the ACC tournament where we were favored to win, Derek Phelps gets hurt in the semifinals against Virginia. We lose the championship game, and us having a team meeting right after that game and said that's our last loss. Mm-hmm. Going through the NCAA tournament, Arkansas, Cincinnati, the double overtime games. Then the rematch against Kansas in the Final Four, and then playing a talented team like Michigan, who was, everybody thought would win it. And, just being able to go, right under the radar throughout. Well, I wouldn't say we were riding under the radar because
people did kind of take you for granted that year.
Yes.
With all the other big time teams that were kind of talked about. I remember that, especially the Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah, true. That was, but we enjoyed it because Coach Smith prepared us for any situation, and we felt that maybe they were more talented in Michigan, but we were the better prepared and better coached team.
Yeah. Now, having all those great alums, whether it's, James Worthy, Sam Perkins, Kenny the Jet Smith, Michael Jordan, the list is endless. But when you step onto that campus, how much are they coming back, giving you advice and telling you about the next step that you'll go through in the process? Because, I can remember at UCLA, Reggie Miller and Pooh Richardson and all those guys that were going on and coming back, and it was always ball that was played at Wooden, just like it is in North Carolina. You guys find those guys and you're playing and you kind of getting the experience of the next level even before you get there. Tell us a little bit about that and who was influential on you from the North Carolina family.
Yeah, like I said, my recruiting visit on campus, the players, Rick Fox, King Rice, Kevin Madden, Scott Williams, Hubert Davis, were the guys that recruited us. And if they liked you, then Coach Smith would continue to recruit, after your visit.
They're checking you out to make sure you fit.
Make sure you were there wearing the brand. And then, you come back your freshman year in the summer and you got, J.R. Reed, Sam Perkins, Brad Daugherty, Kenny the Jet Smith, Michael Jordan, those guys in the gym, and you feel like you're 15 again. You're waiting on the sideline for them to let you in. Because they got rules. You got the NBA players, and then you have the upperclassmen, and then incoming freshmen get to play. So, luckily enough, I was highly recruited that year, and I was able to get on the floor with Michael, and everything in that Last Dance. is very true.
Hey, I know from being on the sidelines and watching them play, and I know from guys that have played with them that everything you saw about that is true, and his level of intensity and wanting to win. What else from that experience helped you? Because you're a hardworking guy, and generally he tends to like guys that are going to work hard, rebound, and give him opportunities. Even as a young pup, I'm sure that helped you get in some of those summer league games as well.
Yeah, because I was, came in, coming from the prep school at Flint Hill Prep, I was in tip-top shape. Mm-hmm. So, guys like King Rice and Rick Fox, they want to win in the summer. So, I probably gave them the better chance out of all the other freshmen coming in that class. And so I had the opportunity to be one of the first games to play when Mike came back. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand Mike is as competitive, you know, as he is, you know, in real game situation, even in pickup games. You know, he didn't take any game for granted. He would pick, you know, walk-ons and guys who came off the bench and play with them so he could take all the shots. But he didn't lose many games during the summer.
So after all that, after that North Carolina career, you're the 12th player pick going out to the Lakers. Tell us about that. I went to school in L.A., so I'm a big fan. For those folks that don't know or never been out to L.A., you get to go to the brand, the Los Angeles Lakers. Tell us how that felt coming out of college. You
know, I thought that, you know, it didn't get any better, you know, than Chapel Hill. But going out to L.A., it was a storied franchise. You know, L.A. in itself is an experience. And, you know, coming from a small town, Roanoke, Virginia, you know, a little college town like Chapel Hill, going out to L.A., you know, going to the West Coast, that was an experience in itself. So, but L.A. was, you know, you had to stay focused. You know, we were going through a transition year those first 3 years. You know, had 3 different coaches. Magic came out of retirement. Magic coached us. And just being a part of that whole experience, you really got to see what that level and what that limelight was like, being in L.A., playing alongside Magic Johnson. You know, James Worthy was there, thank God, because he was kind of I was his rookie, so he took me under his wing and made sure, you know, I got to practice on time, made sure I went to the right clubs and didn't get in any trouble.
Hey, you know, the thing about James Worthy I always love, I don't think people ever gave him credit for how quick his first step was. If you're guarding him as a forward like you would, how quick and how when he was young and that long, I mean, he would just do work on you. It was hard to defend him. I'm sure he taught you some things being his rookie, as you said.
Yeah, he you know, his drop step, being very meticulous to the fundamentals of it, you know, taking advantage of the guys, you know, leaning to one side, going the other way. And like you said, he was long, he had big hands, he could put the ball away from defenders so they couldn't get to it. But you know, that group of players, you know, the work ethic that they put in, even as late in their careers, to watch them prepare mentally and the 82 game approach that they took was something to see from a rookie.
Yeah. Now you get out there, you play there a few years, and then I think you were traded for Shaq and then eventually Kobe, I think it was, or maybe at the same time. So you went to the Vancouver Grizzlies, and then ultimately you land in Philly with AI and Larry Brown. I mean, I'm always fascinated that a guy could be 5'10" or whatever he is, and, you know, 190 pounds. But I've heard you say, and I've heard this before from Reggie Langhorne, who I played with, that AI could have played football, he could have played basketball, he could have played, you know, ran track. He was just that athletic as a guy his size. And you were the defenders on that team with Mutombo and Theo Ratliff. Y'all had a nice cohesive bunch when you finally got to Philly.
Yeah, you know, that whole process, the way Coach Brown built that team, he knew that only certain players could play with Allen Iverson. Guys had to be selfless, not worry about shots, because Allen's had some talented players around him in the years before, but didn't have as much success. But that team with myself, Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, you know, Theo, and then Mutombo came in, Tyrone Hill. We were all guys that probably other organizations didn't look at highly. And but we all were selfless. We were in it for the team. We were in it for the organization. You know, we respected each other for what we brought to the game, and we were out to prove that we were the best team in the East. And you know, unfortunately, when we got to the finals against LA, everybody was, you know, had injuries that we couldn't overcome. But it was a great run. You know, even leading up to it, having to get through the paces. You know, going to 7 games with Toronto, it was a memorable year in 2001.
Yeah, and George, it's interesting when you talk about being in the NBA for 12 years. I don't think people realize, as you're getting older in your career, you're starting to get injuries, but you still are there. You're still showing up every day. You didn't miss any games at North Carolina, and you didn't miss many in the league. That part of hard work, what was it that kept you on the court, kept you able to do it? I know it goes back to your stepdad, but still, how were you able to do that consistently?
It was the love and respect for the game. And then you had, that Sixers team, we had a good franchise player in Allen Iverson. He did not want to miss a game. I mean, he would have played hurt. He would have played sick. And very few franchise players today do that. Guys taking off for, rest, time, body management, whatever they call it.
Load management.
Load management, man. We would have never thought of something like that. But, that's where the game is. The contracts are big. And we're just, they're just trying to, manage manage, how do you say? I can't even make an excuse for them nowadays. But, I guess it is, it's about winning championships and just trying to load management, I guess that's what they call it.
Well, being a coach, I mean, we'll talk about your coaching career, but you saw it up close and personal, Allen's relationship with Larry Brown. And Larry is a tough guy to sometimes play for. Do you have any regrets, or was there ever any time where you thought, man, if these two could see eye to eye, this could really help us? Because you're right. I don't know of anybody that played as hard as Allen Iverson on the hardwood at his size and always showing up every single night.
You know what? They really never. They would have their blow ups, but it was over. Coach, why are you taking me out? Allen could play 48 minutes and then play the next 2 overtimes and still complain about Coach Brown taking him out. Those were some of the issues that he had. It really wasn't, they talk about practice. That one scene was one time in practice where, the media was asking him questions, and he had just lost a good friend back in Virginia, and he didn't want to talk about practice. He really didn't want to be in front of the camera. And, someone asked him about practice or something. He's like, that's where that came about. It wasn't – he was always there in practice, but when you play as many games, as small as he was, and as hard as he played, late in the season, guys don't practice anyway.
Yeah, it's like football. You just walking through and going over. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with George Lynch on Chopping It Up with Buck.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love. Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available. Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
How you guys doing? It's Artavis Scott here.
Live it, Thin Energy.
The reason why I like Thin Energy is because I need to be at my peak performance no matter what I do. Big sports drink for me, keep it going, keeping myself up. It gets me on top of my game, extra boost that I need to keep it going in the fourth quarter. Working out, definitely a good drink for you to have. All the good nutrition that you need inside of it. Passion fruit, it's my favorite one. It's not just for professional athletes, it's for everyone. And I definitely can say it definitely works in the office or in the weight room, wherever you may be. You can go to thinenergy.com, tell them I sent you, and get you a drink. Thin Energy, the healthy alternative. Drink it, live it. See, when I got something like that, I can just go.
No sugar, no crash.
So we're back with Chopping It Up with Buck. I have George Lynch, the legendary North Carolina national championship winner. You talk about that. The thing that was impressive, George, 16th leading scorer, coming into this year, third leading rebounder, and second in steals. I love the hustle plays that you had. So if you talk about that as you transition, what made you want to get into coaching? Because, you know, a lot of times when you play the game that long, sometimes you want to take a step away. I'm sure you had coached and done some different things. What made you decide to get back into coaching and staying around the game that way?
Because growing up as a youngster, I saw a lot of my school-age friends, neighborhood friends, once they wasn't playing sports, they went down the wrong path. Some ended up jail, some ended up dying, some ended up, mischief type activities. So, having a stepfather that taught me the game of basketball, and then having coaches, as a youngster take interest in me because they saw the skill set and abilities that I had, being able to use the sport to go to North Carolina, be drafted by the Lakers, play 12 years in the NBA. I always felt that, I owed it to give back. And, Coach Smith always encouraged the guys to come speak at camps. He sent us throughout North Carolina speaking to youngsters, and watching the young kids take interest in you as a college student because you wore a uniform, you played in North Carolina, and then playing in the NBA and just being able to grab the attention of young kids, both boys and girls, it meant a lot. And it was my way of giving back. And that kind of, the enjoyment I got out of it kind of led me into coaching.
Who was the best influence besides Larry Brown? I know you were on his staff at SMU, but who else in your NBA career really played a big role in you wanting to coach and becoming a coach? Coach Smith. Later in my career, I played for Paul Silas. Yeah.
He was a great. Just his approach, it was different from Larry Brown's. He was actually a player and a coach, so he was great at dealing with older players. I think younger players.
I heard guys didn't mess with Paul Silas, man. I've always heard that if he's like Bob Gibson in baseball, if you're gonna throw hands, don't throw it with Silas, no matter what age he was. He would. I mean, he is no. Yeah,
you definitely want him on your sideline if you.
Yeah. Well, and you think about that with those guys that you're talking about who are all influential. How was your experience with Atlanta University or Clark University in Atlanta, coaching those young men at a historically Black college and really helping them come along and learn the game of basketball?
It was refreshing. Going to a PWI in North Carolina, getting my first coaching experience at UC Irvine in Newport, and then going to SMU, where they don't play in a big conference, but they got donors who can write checks and make sure the basketball program going in the right trajectory, and then going to an HBCU where they gave me my first opportunity to be a head coach. Otherwise, I probably would never have that on my resume. And seeing the guys who really play the game for the love of it, because a lot of those guys, only had 7 scholarships. And 2 of my scholarship players were sitting out because of the way they transferred in. You try to secure them because they showing potential. So I'm playing with 5 scholarships, and you got 13 players. The travel is, you're riding a bus 12, 16 hours. From Atlanta to Central Ohio. So you really, you don't have any of the luxuries that the PWIs have.
Mm-hmm.
And to see those guys give me everything they had, it was a joy in coaching those guys, because a lot of them, you're not coaching talent. You're coaching, guys who are smart, educated. I had the highest team GPA on campus out of a basketball team. Men's basketball team at that. That's rare on the college campus.
That's impressive.
So, I had 9 guys with a 3.0 GPA or higher. And just being able to give back to those guys and, being on a historically Black college campus, it meant a lot.
Yeah, you talk about fulfilling role and being fulfilled with giving back. So that was part of your giving back. Also, too, with COVID-19 coming, what has happened and what has transpired? Because I know you stepped away from coaching with Clark and you started a different organization, HBCU Heroes, to help, and we can talk a little bit about that. But what has it been for you during this time where we've been staying at home, you've been with your family more? What has that transition done for you?
Oh, it's been great. Even before the COVID-19, I got the job at Clark 2 years ago, and, seeing the disparities between PWIs and historically black colleges. Back in the 60s, they took the athletes out of black colleges and, recruited them to go to the PWIs. And then, now to the day, the corporate dollars, the advertisement, it's not at your black colleges, it's at the bigger schools, the bigger institutions, more visible. And just, being able to, now with the COVID situation, I started HBCU Heroes 2 years ago because anyone can be a HBCU hero. Like Steph Curry didn't go to Howard, but he gave money back to Howard. Okay. Charles Barkley gives to Miles. He gave to Clark. Oprah Winfrey gave to Spelman. She gave to Morehouse. Anyone can be a hero at an HBCU, and it doesn't take the large dollars like it does if you give to a predominant white school, because they have boosters. They, you to get your name on the building, you got to give $20 million. The HBCU, $10,000 would go a long way. $100,000 would go a long way. I think Charles gave $1 million to Clark. That could change a HBCU for a long time. So that's the difference. And now with this, COVID situation, a lot of the students were forced off campus to finish their education. We don't know if they're going to be able to go back. Morehouse shut down football. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot more of the HBCUs are going to have to do the same thing, follow suit for fall sports. And that's what HBCU Heroes is about. We want to be able to help these HBCUs level the playing field through their athletic departments, because sometimes, a lot of times, if you give money to a HBCU, it doesn't trickle down to the athletic department, because their need is so great. They have to figure out, okay, where are we going to spend this, and back in the 60s, that was the only place that blacks could go to school with HBCUs.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Do you think with that happening and all the events that have happened in the world over the last couple of months, that we might see more student athletes that are black that end up going to black colleges as opposed to going to some of the larger institutions?
It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take the alumni to give back more. You competing against endowments at these PWIs that is, I think if you merged all the HBCUs together, they might not have the type of endowment that Harvard has. So,
and you're saying predominantly white institutions as PWIs?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Just for the people out there that don't know, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. So it's tough, and I think black is the new black now. So if we level the playing field and everybody think about considering, even if you apply to HBCU, it helps because. I think at North Carolina, they might have had, 50,000 applicants last year. Whereas, if an HBCU gets 300 applicants, and those application fees can go a long way. You can do a lot with those application fees in terms of running your universities. And, the PWIs get more than enough kids applying, and not enough people are applying at HBCU.
Yeah, and you have young kids as well. And the one thing that you just mentioned, too, is with black being the new black. What was it like, or what has it been like in having those conversations in your family and with others? Being from Virginia, I'm from Texas. We've seen some of that systemic racism that we know now coming to the forefront. What was it like talking to them after the George Floyd incident or Breonna Taylor, all these things that we've seen even before that we knew were there, but now we're seeing it being captured on film and all these different things that we see now that we've known for years?
Well, I have an older son who's 22, graduate at SMU. So I had to have that talk with him 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and then by him, you know, being brought up in a certain neighborhood in Dallas, you know, probably the only black kid in that neighborhood, you know, he's going to be seen and could possibly get pulled over. And I had to have that conversation with him years ago.
Yeah.
And I now have a daughter and a younger son who's 14. He's not driving yet, thankfully. But, you know, after the George Floyd, you have to have a conversation with them. And it's constantly, you know, as a black parent, as a black father, you have to have that conversation with your kids on how they should, you know, carry themselves if they're pulled over.
Yeah. And I think, George, the one thing, too, that I keep emphasizing, I have a 27-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter. And even your daughters, you know, we used to think, hey, they won't, you got to have that conversation with both because you're just so concerned with them just making it home. You know, that's
exactly.
Key. You know, this HBC Heroes, I think, is just special because I call the Bayou Classic for the last 3 years, the game between Southern and Grambling. And I agree with you. I love the bands. I love everything. I love the culture. But I think you're right with the social distance learning that these young men and women as student athletes have to pick up. Your company has stepped in now to say this is where we want to give out. I think the number was 6,000 computers or 6,000 iPads to help them out. So we really want to help you. I mean, I think we're going to make sure that people know how to get in touch with HBCU Heroes and understand what the platform is so they can help out. Because I think I agree with you. You got kids now that are at home that some of them don't even have Wi-Fi to get into the distance learning applications to even be able to do the schoolwork.
Yes, and we've donated computers to Florida Memorial, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, North Carolina A&T, Paul Quinn College in Dallas.
Okay.
I'm missing a few. Jackson State, and there's plenty more schools, HBCU college students that need computers. And like you said, the technical divide is also has to do with that economics because you know a lot of college students go home and now they got to share a computer with 3 siblings.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get a Wi-Fi. So, you know, I had a call with one athletic director. Their student was doing their work in a Starbucks parking lot.
Yeah. I was getting ready to say they have to go somewhere. Yeah.
And then, you know, the security ran him off. So now he can't, get his assignments turned in at all. And hopefully, you know, we'll find a cure for this and we can get students back into school in the fall. Because a lot of the students at HBCUs do their homework and get their papers done at the labs on campus. They don't have the devices in their rooms, to be able to finish their schoolwork on their own time.
Well, we really appreciate what you're doing there. The other thing is the ACC commissioner kind of stepping away. You kind of doing some things. Would you be interested in running for the commissioner of the ACC at all?
I got to take baby steps. I need to be an athletic director first.
Yeah.
But I know Mr. Swarford. He was at Carolina when I was there in the 90s, and then he took over as ACC commissioner. Great guy. Did some great things with the ACC. And, you know, the other opportunity that HBCUs have is esports. We're working on, esports competition with Southern, Hampton, Virginia Union, Langston. I said Southern, Langston, Fayetteville State. We're working on. It's going to be a 6-team tournament this weekend, July the 3rd. You can follow us on Twitch. It's going to be HBC Heroes. It's to engage the students while they're virtual learning. And this is an opportunity for a lot of the HBCUs to make revenue through the esports and in the gaming devices. I think JC Smith has a curriculum. A few other schools are building, $1 million facilities because that's the PWIs took the more talented athletes. They also going to take the smarter, brighter students in the STEM curriculum because they have facilities. Ohio State has a gaming. They give gaming scholarships. SMU has a program. Georgia State has a program. A lot of these PWIs are already into gaming, and our HBCUs have to get on board with this because this is the next big thing and next big opportunity for our HBCUs.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's interesting. This esports is just, it has grown. And with COVID now, early on before sports started back, you saw a lot of that. And they're giving scholarships and opportunities for kids. I think you're right. I think you're really on to something here with the whole part of that as opposed, and also helping from a budgetary standpoint. I think that's going to be really key. And you've seen that up close and personal. But what's next for you? You talk about athletic director. In order for more Black coaches to be hired or more people in administration, we need more athletic directors and folks in those positions. Is that something that you're looking at or something you're interested in down the road?
I enjoy the coaching part, being on the floor with the guys, the team camaraderie, competition. So I would like to stay in that field, be around the game, whether it's at the NBA level or the college level. I'm talking to a few college coaches that might have something, but no one knows until this COVID thing is over.
So George, with what is in your iPod, what you're listening to, what is on your Apple Music or your Spotify, what tunes are keeping you going and keeping you busy all day?
I'm a 80s, 90s guy, so I got Drew the Damager. I got Tribe Called Quest.
Love it.
Of course, I got Biggie, Jay-Z, and Tupac. And if I go, I listen to John Legend a little bit also.
Oh yeah, all the time, Fife. You're on point, Tip.
Yeah,
I love it. So you got down to the 20. We're in the scoring zone. Tell me your best memory of Dean Smith and when you knew I'm going to the next level. He anointed me. He gave me the understanding that I can get to where all those other great Tar Heels went.
Hey, it's plenty of stories. I give you one. We in practice, we about to play Kentucky 2 days before, or we get into town, Louisville, early. We're about to play Kentucky. You got Billy Packer, Dick Vitale, and Nance, I think, on the sideline. And, of course, now, if you ever been to a Carolina practice, unless you family, you are nowhere near the court. You at the top of the Smith Center. And you hear the stories about Coach. You playing for him, you see him every day. You see the swag. You see the confidence that he has, but you don't understand the power. We in practice, and this is just it's normally the day for the game is more like a walkthrough shoot around, but because Coach Smith is so detail oriented, and no one talks in his practice, so the three reporters, Dick Vitale, Billy Packer, and Nance on the sideline talking, carrying on the conversation. I don't know what they talking about, and said, if y'all don't shut up, I'm going to take my team and leave. And he ain't talking about lead. He not talking about lead practice. He talking about not playing the game.
Wow.
And we were standing, we couldn't believe it. We was like, whoa. It was one of those whoa moments like P. Diddy. Hey. So I was like, man. But, that was, you understood, what he meant to the game and what he brought to the game when you're around him and watch the way he carried himself and the respect and the treatment he gave us as players. And, we were at the top of his list. He said he would, if the president called and he was in practice, he would not take the call until practice was over.
Wow. Well, I just threw you a nice little fade route because of the height over there, man. I'm tall, but you're taller, and you're going up and get it. Touchdown. Hey, man, it's been good having you on. Come back anytime. We want to find out where you're going to be. HBCU Heroes. Check that out again. On this edition of Chopping It Up with Buck, we had George Lynch. Always a pleasure, and we'll check you out on the next side.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Mike Gardner, founder of Thin Energy, the wellness energy that delivers each and every time.
In 6 weeks that I've been taking Thin Energy, I feel fantastic.
I lost 7 pounds in the first week.
You just squeeze it in, you take a shot, and you're done.
Get your drinks, get you hype, get you ready.
I feel great.
Jump on, try Thin Energy.
Drink it, live it.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love. Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available. Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.